Hi everyone, welcome and welcome back to Gam Reads It All. I've made myself a lovely coffee ready to dive into around about 60 books that I've hauled over the last 3 months. The last book haul I did was at the end of October. We are now at the end of January. So this is embodying all of the books I got in November, December and January, which also spans Christmas and New Year. So there is quite a lot here. I haven't included some of the books that I bought while I was in Australia and Egypt, mainly because in those Slice of Life vlogs, I do actually talk about the books that I hauled. So I don't really need to repeat myself. Although for some reason I feel like I will be repeat myself because I have read some of these already. I have done video projects for them already. I may have already read some of these in some of the vlogs that have come out over the last couple of months. So let's just dive straight into it because we're going to end up being here for a while. So grab yourself a hot drink, get yourself all nice and cozy and let's dive in. But please do like the video if you enjoy and subscribe if you haven't already. Okay, I'm using my table for this and I've got nowhere to put my coffee. I'm going to have to put it over here. The first few books I'm going to show you are books I thrifted from eBay. So I have a couple of the Goosebumps triple header books. I mentioned these in the home library video, I think, but these are one of the last few Goosebumps books that I need to cover and do a video for. I actually never heard of these. As a big Goosebumps fan, a big R.L. Stine fan, even though, you know, I love and loathe that man. And I have been covering the Goosebumps books for nearly 4 years now. I've been doing dedicated reading vlogs for them. I actually had never heard of the triple header books. It features this weird three-headed creature thing. I think reading a story or three scary short stories to you. These are so old. I mean, look at the paper. Look at the paper. It's like blotchy and kind of brown. Oh, this one has Egyptian mummies in it. Ooh. All new. Join the Goosebumps Series 2000 fan club. Details inside. Oh, I love these old books. I love them so much, especially when it's like, oh, send this off to get these books. And I can imagine this is not open anymore. $3.99 each. You could never. In these days, you could never. Join the Goosebumps Fan Club 2000. I wish. You know what? I might end up doing this in the next Goosebumps video. I might actually cut this out and send it off just to see what happens. Semi-official Goosebumps Fan Club 2000 pack. Enclosing my check or money order. No cash, please. For US residents, damn it. I'm gonna have to find a US address. $10.95. And for Canadian residents, $15.95. $19.97. Oh my god. So yeah, I bought these two because yeah, that comment did say, oh, you should cover these. And I was like, oh, I've never heard of them. I'll get them. And they were on eBay. So I was like, why not? They were cheap. I also hold 3 Smallville books from eBay too. I have Smallville Arrival, Smallville Hauntings, and Smallville Strange Visitors. Now, I believe this is a young adult one and these are adult ones. I think they released different versions of Smallville books, tie-in novels that are like original stories. Although I think this might be a novelization of the pilot maybe. But these thinner and shorter ones I think are young adult and these bigger and smaller ones are adult, I think. But yeah, Smallville, origin story Clark Kent / Superman. Love the TV show so much and I do want to do a Smallville reading vlog. Well, I thought it was the 25th anniversary of Smallville this year, but it's not. It's the 24th anniversary. So I'm like, should I wait until next year and do it for the 25th anniversary? Because doing it for the 24th anniversary, I don't know. But I still might do it in October. I still might do it. Okay, next one you've definitely seen before, and these are the Wicked books by Gregory Maguire. This is the Wicked Year series. I read all of these back in November when the movie came out, which I genuinely love with all of my heart. And I liked the first Wicked book. I thought it was pretty nifty and creative, and I love these covers as well. So that's one of the reasons why I got this set and not like a different set. They all match, they all look pretty lovely. I didn't like books 2, 3 and 4. I thought they were pretty shit. I gave them 1.5 stars, but I will never get rid of these. These are in my collection forever. These are considered part of my like nostalgic books, even though I only really read them in the last couple of months. The series itself, oh my god, he's seen the green on the Wicked book. I don't know if you can really see it in the actual viewfinder or anything, but I've got the green paint when I dressed as Alphabet all on the book. And even for Wicked as well, like the first book. That's hilarious. But yeah, any books I consider part of me, like I loved Wicked growing up so much, like my teenage years were dedicated to the Wicked soundtrack. And I even read Wicked for the first time back when I was like maybe 18 or 19 or something. So I consider them part of my life, and so they're going to be in my life forever. I'm not getting rid of them, so... Why? I literally just watched Emma's book haul from the channel Emmy, and yeah, she had her books full as well. Like, this is absolutely disgusting. Like, absolutely bad. Why are our books trying to kill us? Why are our books trying to kill us? That better not do it again. This was a hate crime, by the way. I didn't realize my books were homophobic. They're getting unhauled. This has turned into a book unhaul. I'm so scared of that now. Next, I have the Song of Ice and Fire series by George R.R. Martin. Now, I had read these before. I read them gosh, it'll be 6 years now. It'll be 6 years, and I really enjoyed them, and I have had the urge to reread them for the last, like, how would I say, 4 or 5 months, and I saw these versions of them, and I only have really special collectors £75 versions of the Game of Thrones series, so I'd want to try and read those because they'll be really hard to read. They are quite massive, and they would just be really awkward to hold. Plus, I really wanted the American versions because A Storm of Swords and A Feast for Wait, hang on. A Storm of Swords and A Dance with Dragons. These are the wrong way around, I apologise. A Storm of Swords and Dance with Dragons are split into 2 books in the UK. So I wanted to have them all as they should be, you know? But yeah, I love this little box set. Got it really cheap. It was only about £35. £35 for this box set. I will say these books are smaller than I anticipated, but I am in love with the covers. And the writing is quite nice for me. I don't annotate, so I don't mind not having big margins, but the writing itself is like big enough. And yeah, it's like really nice and pocket size, so it's going to be so much easier to hold in on my hands, and it's quite floppy, and I just love these covers so much. Like, look at that. Look at that. And then look at A Clash of Kings. Oh, beautiful. A Storm of Swords, A Feast for Crows, and A Dance with Dragons. So if I show you like a regular size book, paperback, this is how it looks next to each other. So you can see there's like quite a bit of size difference. But because this is such a big book anyway, with how many pages there are on it, I genuinely don't mind it being a little bit smaller because it's a lot easier and better to hold. Anyway, yeah, that's one of the reasons why I got it. I am sweating now. I think it's because I just fought for my life. Okay, next I have some Broken Binding books, and I'm going to get back into books that I've regularly bought myself. And Broken Binding is my favorite subscription box, and it's definitely going to be the one that I definitely keep. So the first couple are books that I just generally bought, like that you don't get as part of the subscription. So one is Jin Yong's A Hero Born, and this is the first book in the Legends of the Condor Heroes, and I love the fact that it is set in China in 1200 AD, and I'm going to China in April, so I feel like I might end up trying to read this while I'm there or before I go, or some kind of thing for that. I might even try making my Trover Trip group's group book like I did with Egypt. We did What the River Knows by Isabella Banez. We did that as a group book, and I might do the same for this one potentially. I'll ask if they fancy doing it. We follow Guo Jing, I think his name is, and he grew up in the Khan's army. Apparently he is fated to oppose someone who has always opposed him, somebody who is opposite to him in every way possible, and Guo must return to China to fulfill his destiny, and he is led there by what would they call, like the seven heroes of the South. So it just sounds so good. I also got an edition of The Way of Edan by Philip Chase. Philip Chase is somebody who does a lot of booktube, YouTube videos under the name of Philip Chase, The Best of Fantasy. And this is the first book in the Edan trilogy. And a lot of the people who I follow on like the fantasy side of booktube have read this series and loved it. I don't really know too much about it other than a lot of people say if you like The Lord of the Rings, you would like this. And I freaking love The Lord of the Rings. Are you kidding me? It says a holy war looms over the kingdoms of Eormenland. I might have to do the audiobook for this and like read in tandem. A chance encounter bestows a terrible curse upon a young man. Dayraven's curse may decide Ormenland's fate. I probably say this so wrong, I apologise. And Dayraven has the help of some unlikely friends. And it just sounds so good. It just sounds so good. And the Broken Binding edition is absolutely stunning. So very excited to read a book from a fellow booktuber. I would like to try and do a vlog reading booktubers' books. I think that would be fun. As part of the sci-fi subscription for Broken Binding, I got the second book in the Three Body Problem series. What? I don't know what this series is actually called. I think it has a different name. Oh, it's just called the Three Body Problem trilogy. Well, I described what the Three Body Problem was in a previous video, and then I got a few comments saying that's kind of not what it's like at all, but like it kind of is, but it kind of isn't. But I'm kind of like, I'm refusing now to try and describe the series because what I thought the first book was about might not actually be what it's about. So I don't want to spread misinformation. You've probably seen or read The Three Body Problem yourself. Second book in the series has come. I love how the Broken Binding editions look together because, you know, very superficial. But no, I've been very interested in reading the series. It's in my 25 books to read in 2025, as is the next 2 books because it's part of the Memory, Sorrow and Thorn series by Tad Williams. And I genuinely thought that these were the same book. So we got To Green Angel Tower Siege, and then To Green Angel Tower Storm. So these are books 3 and 4 in that series. And yeah, the first book, which is called The Dragonborn Chair, is in my 25 books to read in 2025. And I love the fact that this has this kind of font in writing. It's so big, it's so bold, it's so beautiful. So I've been reading more fantasy in 2025. I've told you, it's already started. I've already done 2 book clubs. I'm part of 2 book clubs this year that are dealing with more epic fantasy and fantasy in general. So, you know, Gab's all grown up. Okay, next I have some, I'm gonna lower this. I'm so sorry, you can probably see like the books that are in the stack. I don't want to spoil it for you. Next is a book that I read in the last Emboss or Toss video I did, which is Dungeon Crawler Call by Matt Dinnerman. I had the audiobook and then I just knew kind of straight away that this was going to be a series that I would love. So I ended up buying and like overnighting this book straight away because I was like, yes, this is what I've been looking for a long time. It's so fun. It's like one of the most fun book experience I've ever had, and the audiobook narrator is so fantastic. So I'm going to get the rest of the series and do a tandem read of physical and audio, and I kind of want to do a reading vlog reading all of them, so I'm going to reread this one pretty soon, I think. Like, it's one of my challenges this year, and I mean, will it do well? I don't care, because like I just love the idea of doing it. It's like the same with my Stephen King videos. Like, I'm doing them because I just really want to do that. Like, that's my challenge for myself, even though there are definitely going to be videos in that series that just won't do well, and that's fine, because any kind of videos that deal with spoilers don't really do all the best, which is fine. And doing a Dungeon Crawler Call reading vlog, reading all of them, would just be so much fun. Like, I'm just so excited about that. Dungeon Crawler Call, it does follow Carl and Princess Donut, who is a cat, his ex-girlfriend's cat, who he has to now look after. The world essentially gets like flattened by aliens, and Carl is one of the few survivors, and anyone who does survive, they are put into these dungeons with different levels, and they have to try and get out, kind of thing. And that's like the bare bones of it, but it's just so fun and funny, and I loved it. Next, I have my pre-order of Nick and Charlie, which is the 10th anniversary special edition. Are you kidding me? By Alice Oseman. So beautiful, so stunning. Obviously, Nick and Charlie are from Heartstopper, although I do think this came first. And actually, no, I think Solitaire. Is it Solitaire? The very first book that Alice Oseman ever wrote, I think. Whichever book follows Tori. I actually haven't read that book yet. Whichever one follows Tori, you do have Nick and Charlie as like secondary characters, and then Heartstopper came out with that kind of thing. And this is the short novella, and it has the illustrated cover, and it's just very, very stunning. I love Nick and Charlie. I love anything to do with Heartstopper, so of course I was looking at this. I also love the fact that Charlie is reading I Was Born for This by Alice Oseman with the illustrated cover. I am thinking maybe I might get the illustrated covers of the Alice Oseman books, especially since those are the ones that have been released recently, and I don't know if they're still going to continue releasing the older covers, so I might have to start replacing those with the newer ones, otherwise I will have such a mismatched set. But anyway, I would take a straight bullet for Alice Oseman, so buying more copies of her books, I absolutely do not mind doing that for them. Next is my pre-order of Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. And I mentioned this, what did I mention it in? I did a read in my home library vlog, and I mentioned I did buy this, even though I haven't been a big fan of Grady Hendrix's more recent books. I did buy this because I love witches. Witches is my favourite thing of all time, just of anything ever. We talked about Wicked, and you know, that musical, amazing. The Worst Witch I loved growing up. Charmed is my favourite TV show of all time. So Grady Hendrix was like, huh, you think you're done with me, Gav? Absolutely not. And I did end up pre-ordering this because, well, one, I kind of like that. In two, it was during Double Stamps weekend at Waterstones, and every time there was a Double Stamps weekend, I just pre-order a whole bunch of stuff, because then that way it doesn't take my money straight away. And I believe I was struggling to hit that £10 mark, you know, the £10 bench to get like the stamps back. This follows the Wayward Girls who are sent to this house in Florida, and we follow Fern, who arrives there in 1970, and she is alone, she is pregnant, and every single day is very strict. Like, the people who work there are very, very strict. And then one day Fern meets this librarian who gives her this book of the occult, and I think this is kind of her gateway into witchcraft, potentially. Like, I love the sound of it. Grady Hendrix always has fascinating premises. I always love the titles of his books, but I'm always let down. Always. So I hope that going into this with low expectations helps me to like really, really love this one. But yeah, I needed the double stamps. I'm a sucker for witches. Sue me. Next, I bought the next 3 books in the Faithful and the Fallen series by John Gwynne. I have Valor, I have Ruin, and I have Wrath. I am doing the catch-up book club at the minute, and we read the first book, Malice, not too long ago. It was only a few weeks ago, and we did the live show for it. And we are doing book 2, I believe, at the start of March, and then book 3 at the start of May, and then book 4 at the start of July, something like that. So I needed to buy these books for the book club. I really enjoyed book 1. I gave it 4 stars, and I've heard great things about the series. I'm very excited to continue. And I really do love the characters of that one. Out of everything, I think the characters I'm really, really liking so far. Corbin, the main character, seems to be pretty good, and I can imagine he's going to go on this like epic character arc. And yeah, I'm just fascinated by it, and really well written too, so how to get the rest of the series. Oh, next I have a bit of a Stephen King haul. So I have 5 books, and these are 5 books that I need to get to relatively quickly-ish, because I am reading The Eyes of the Dragon, Cycle of the Werewolf, and The Talisman next month in February. And then I also have, I think, The Tommyknockers and Thinner I need to read in April. So that's why I prioritize getting these Stephen King books. So here I have The Talisman, which is co-written with Peter Straub. I don't really know too much about these books, actually. I've never ever read these ones, and I've never really heard about them either. They're not really the more popular ones. This one follows 12-year-old Jack. His mother is dying, his father's missing. Yeah, and a stranger comes, and he ends up going on this journey. Is it to save his mother? Yeah, he needs to find the talisman. I love that I keep second guessing myself, like, oh, it's about this, but is it? And I know there is like some kind of parallel world, because I remember seeing like this weird graphic novel image thing about it when I was like trying to get images for a thumbnail to send to my illustrator for it, and I remember coming across this weird kind of parallel world kind of image. I was like, oh, that looks pretty cool. So I am excited to read it. So I'll be reading this one this month. Same with Cycle of the Werewolf. This is a very short book. It's kind of part graphic novel. It does have illustrations in it like this. It is mostly text though, with those kind of illustrations. Illustrated by Bernie Wrightson. And so this is going to be a nice, quick and easy one to get through, I imagine. And yeah, there are werewolves terrorizing a town. And it does look like it goes through the actual cycle of a werewolf from January through to December. So I think each chapter is a different month. That's really cool. I like that. The Eyes of the Dragon, also going to be reading in February. This one I think is Stephen King's foray into fantasy. I think there's a young boy called Peter who has to save a kingdom or something like that. I don't know. I will find out when I read it. Thinner, I think, is a man who gets cursed to continuously keep losing weight, just like non-stop, like it doesn't stop. Almost like, you know, Benjamin Button getting... Is it older or younger? I've never actually seen Benjamin Button. Is it older or younger? Yeah, it's kind of like a curse that like is eating his flesh. And it's like it won't stop. So he's going to get thinner and thinner, probably until he disappears, you know, like forever or ever, or something like that. But this was written as Richard Bachman, so this is one of the Bachman books. And then finally, I have The Tommyknockers, which is so freaking big. So freaking big. I'm reading this in April alongside It. That in this in one video. Are you kidding me? I mean, yeah, it's nearly 1,000 pages. Oh my God. And you know, I haven't heard the best of things about this one either. We have a poet called Jim, and there is someone called Bobby who stumbles over something in the forest. That's literally all the backstory is about it. You know what? The less I know about it, the better. So yeah, that's my little Stephen King haul ready for my projects over the next few months. So I don't have to like buy any more Stephen King books until probably about May or June. I am all set. Oh, next I got Blackwater by Michael McDowell. This was from Victoria, who sent me this for Christmas. So thank you so much, Victoria. Oh, it's also called Blackwater Won the Flood. So I think this is a series. And I had never heard of it before Victoria sent me this, but it actually does sound pretty interesting. We are set in a small Alabama town and the river is rising, and it kind of coincides with this arrival of this mysterious stranger. And I think we also follow like this small family and like what happens with this disaster. So I had never heard of it, but it's nice and short. How many books are there? I think there's 4 or 5 books. No, 6 books. There's 6 books in this. I love me a challenge. Okay, the next 6 books I actually bought while I was in Edinburgh visiting a friend back in November. And some of these were recommendations of him. And some of these were ones that I saw on a table in the 3 for 2 offer. Was it in W.H. Smith or something? So one of them is Tokyo Express by Seicho Matsumoto. It says it's very Hitchcockian. It is like about a detective investigating this case where there is a couple found in a cave and it looks like it might have been cyanide, but this detective doesn't think it is. He thinks something else is afoot. Classic of post-war Japanese crime fiction, an irresistible Hitchcockian gem. And I really do enjoy a lot of Hitchcock films, so I really do think if it has those kinds of vibes, then I will enjoy like quite immensely. And I think this is in my 25 books of 2025 as well. I also got in that 3 for 2 the perfume book The Story of a Murderer by Patrick Suskind. This is something I have seen dotted around on BookTube and Bookstagram. Apparently this is about murder in twisted eroticism, and it is set in 18th century France. We follow this man whose name we kind of lost over time, I think. Anyway, it does say that if his name has been forgotten today, it's certainly not because he fell short of those most famous black gods when it came to arrogance, misanthropy, immortality, or wickedness, but because his gifts and his sole ambition were restricted to a domain that leaves no traces in history, to the fleeting realm of scent. And I don't know why, but scent, like the next book, Glutton, you know, like scent, taste. I read A Certain Hunger last year, and while it wasn't one of my favorite books, it definitely still left an impression of me. Any kind of books that deal with the 5 senses, I might even do a reading vlog trying to read books that fit those 5 senses. So we have like scent, we have taste in the Glutton, so like maybe like sight, sound, what's the other one again? Touch. If I do like some kind of read vlog with all different 5 senses, then I feel like that would be pretty good. I would like to read that. This was again a recommendation from that friend I went to Edinburgh with, and he said there was some like really weird and fucked up stuff, and some of it, like some of the descriptions of some of the tasting was like really really bizarre. It is another book set in the 18th century, so apparently I'm in my historical phase, even though I read a couple of historical books. Well, no, I read one historical book this week and I didn't really love it all that much, but that's neither here nor there. This is a totally different book. Yeah, set in France. Damn, more of these are set in France. I believe a sudden act of violence against this man makes him crave more. Like, he has like this really great appetite whenever there is like a great massive violence. Oh yeah, and this is The Glutton by A.K. Blackmore, author of The Manning Tree Witches, which I have heard of. Never read before, but I have heard of that. Yeah, it sounds good. But also let me know if you think the 5 senses kind of reading vlog would be a good one. And if you have any suggestions for the other senses, that would be great. I could have done like something like the eyes are the best part. Would that really be? I mean, I've already read it, but I'm just thinking something to do with the eyes, potentially, that could help. Kayla would be able to help me with that one. Okay, and the next two are also recommendations from that same friend. Norwegian Wood by Murakami. I don't think I need to explain this one. I've never read Murakami before, but I would like to, but I'm really, really scared to. This one is about a guy who was transported back 20 years to his student days in Tokyo, and I think the main character can like choose a different path to live. In a way, I don't know. But I feel like everyone knows this one. The next one though, Queen Macbeth by Val McDermid. This one my friend was reading at that time and said he was really enjoying. And I got this from Type Wronger Books in Edinburgh, and they had this like really cool like bookmark, and they also stamped it as well. Like, I love it when a bookstore stamps things. He even said like he was inspired by Shakespeare and Company in France, in Paris, to have like a stamper. So that was on the 27th of November 2024. But yeah, I think this just follows Queen Macbeth after the death of Macbeth and she becomes queen. I love Macbeth. Macbeth is my favourite Shakespeare play. The next one was also in Edinburgh, but this was a blind date with a book. I can't actually remember the actual summary thing that was on the brown paper to sell this as a blind date with a book. I think it might have said something about like horror meets Scooby-Doo or something like that, maybe. But yeah, A Night... Oh god, I just realised it's introduced by Neil Gaiman. Okay, scratching that awful man's name off the cover. This is by Roger Zelazny. And apparently it's the 30th anniversary edition. I didn't even realize it came out that long ago. But it is set in London. There is a guy called Jack, maybe Jack the Ripper, who is prowling the streets of London. And he is, along with his dog, gathering these really morbid ingredients for a ritual. So this introduction, I'm probably going to get so much hate for this, but... what introduction? The next one is, again, like something that made me realize I definitely have too many BookBox subscriptions. I've cancelled this BookBox subscription now as well, and it was good for a while because I did need like the horror and thriller recommendations. But the next lot of books that I got from over the past couple of months since November from the Abominable BookBox, they are a great BookBox subscription, don't get me wrong. I love the fact that they send secondhand books sometimes, but it was like way too many, and I think I got to a point where I was like, I need a break. I need to stop. So among the books that came with it were James Herbert's Ash. And I love the fact that that's the name of my cat. That's the name of my cat. And we follow a ghost hunter who goes to a castle to hunt ghosts. Like, who does that sound like, huh? How does that sound like? Does it sound like Gavin Reads It All? During vlogs of Halloween? I think it does. And yeah, this David Ash, he is investigating disturbing events. It does sound amazing. Like, I didn't cancel Abominable BookBox because they were sending bad books or anything. It was just too much. I was overwhelmed. It's 3 books. 3 books in one subscription box every month. It's too much. It's too much. But this actually does look really good. And I still have yet to read a James Herbert book, but I want to. Next is Feast While You Can by Michaela Clements and Anjuli Datta. Oh, and this sounds like so queer. Listen to this. There is a monster inside of Angelina Seco. All she wants is to walk her mongrel dog, hold court with her brother in their local dive bar, and bait hot queer women to her sleepy conservative hometown Cadenza. Or Cadence? Cadence. The problem is, so does this monster. So this might be sapphic. Potentially, I don't know. I'm probably going to regret cancelling Abominable BookBox, but give me a few months, let me catch up with the books, and then I might resubscribe. But at the minute, I'm just loving the fact that I have less on my plate now. Next is Tom Carlyle's Marginal. I like the cover of this, even though seeing the human body without skin makes me absolutely want to throw up and vomit. So this follows Rob, and he gets a phone call one night to tell him that his brother has died. He actually dies at this Scottish compound where him and his family grew up. And so I think this is a story of Rob going back to like his childhood home, his childhood place. And I think like family secrets, horror starts to happen, because it's not just the fact that his brother died, his brother was murdered. Shocking stuff. The Murder Book by Jonathan Kellerman. This was a nice surprise to get because I'd never heard of it before. Quite big, quite old. This one follows a detective called Alex who gets this ring binder, this kind of book called The Murder Book. And it's full of macabre pictures of murders, bodies, pictures of the scene of a crime, descriptions and things to do with the murder. But only one picture in this entire thing is marked as not solved. So I think Alex now goes on this like quest to solve this one last murder. It sounds really gross. It sounds really fucked up actually. Then we have Disturbance by Jenna Clark. This one follows a young woman who accidentally comes across two teenage girls looking like they're performing some kind of ritual on one of their ex-boyfriends or something like that. And this woman ends up befriending these teenagers because she also has an abusive ex herself and she wants to kind of learn what they're doing, and I think it ties into some supernatural things. So it sounds so good. Like, these picks are so good. I didn't have the time to read them all at the time of getting them, and it's just too much. Coup de Grace by Sophia Adram. This is so small, a lovely little novella. This one follows Vicken, and I believe he has a plan to end his own life. So as he's on his way to do that, he gets off the train and it's gone weird. Like, he can't get out of the station. The station is now endless and it's looping and it's kind of madness. Like, what is happening? How is he not being able to get out of there? So he's seemingly like trapped in this kind of prison thing, and because it's so short, it's like a novella, I think I'm gonna love it. Next is A Christmas Ghost Story by Kim Newman. This one follows a family at Christmas, and I believe they're getting Christmas cards, and every day the cards get more sinister, and they open the advent calendar, the chocolate tastes off. Things are seemingly being weird in this household with his family. And then the last one from the Abominable Book Box, The Gift by Sebastian Fitzek. So this one follows Milan, and he is a character who has, what's it called again? Alexia. So he has an inability to read or like comprehend words. However, at a traffic light, this car stops and there's this girl at the back of this car and she looks distressed and she puts a note up to the window, but because he can't read it, he just knows that she's in danger. And so it kind of goes on the story of him finding out what it is that's happening to this girl and his search for her. So yeah, that's the last one from the Abominable Book Box. I can't really say that word. Abominable Book Box. Abominable Book Box. Abominable Book Box. Next I have the Woodsmoke Women's Book of Spells by Rachel Greenlaw. Bought this from Waterstone, so it's like a really nice pretty edition. Got this just before Christmas. This one sounds very practical magic because we have a young woman called Carrie. She goes back to her hometown, which sounds like the town from Practical Magic, and this family itself sounds like it has that same kind of curse that the Practical Magic family have. Her curse is that her new love will disappear when the frost comes, and lo and behold, this sexy hot new stranger has just walked into her life. And so what's going to go on there? What's going to happen there? Okay, this was when I cancelled Fairy Loot. Before Christmas, I bought The Courting of Bristol Keats by Mary A. Pearson. This was actually recommended from one of my former colleagues as I was browsing the store. So I was like, oh yeah, that sounds cool, I'll get it. And I love the Waterstones edition of it so much. I love the dark colours of it. We follow Bristol, who has lost both of her parents, but she gets this mysterious letter from her aunt. It seems like her father might not actually be dead. And this is fantasy, so Bristol does go on this journey to save her father through like the lands of the Fae, and through the lands of the monsters, and things like that. So I was like, okay, sign me up. And then freaking Fairy Loot came. I had no idea that this was going to be a Fairy Loot book. And I actually prefer the Waterstones edition of it. Like, I don't know, I'm not really the biggest fan. And I do love the sprayed edge. The stenciled edge looks really nice. But this was when I cancelled Fairy Loot. The young adult and the adult subscription. I still have the Romantasy subscription, so I still get the early access emails. And I'm interested in reading more Romantasy. But yeah, as soon as this came, I was like, again. So yeah, Court of Bristol Keats looks good. Okay, the rest of these are Fairy Loot and Lumicrate. I do have Air by Sabaa Tahir. I haven't read a Sabaa Tahir book before, and I'm hoping I don't need to in order to get into this one. Although I will say it sounds like every other Fairy Loot fantasy book I've ever received. We have a main character who is banished and is after vengeance, and their family has been wronged, and there is war, and there is a fight for power. It literally sounds like almost every other Fairy Loot fantasy book we've ever had. When this came, I was like, okay, I do want to read Sabaa Tahir. Oops, sorry. I do want to read Sabaa Tahir, but it sounds like every other Fairy Loot book. Like, are you kidding me? I don't know if that's just a problem with a lot of fantasy books these days just sounding so similar to the next, or if it's like Fairy Loot in general, just picking those books because like, oh, you know, it's tried and tested. People love them, so we'll just keep doing them. But I do love this edition of the book. It does look really nice. It looks very, very pretty. It looks so pretty. And then I have Sorcery and Small Magics by Mega Ducey. I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation. I do apologize. But this is one that I genuinely am very excited to read. It didn't quite come close to winning my January Patreon Patreon book club poll, but you know, it was there because I thought it was going to be interesting. We follow Leavander, and he can summon butterflies with song, or with music. There is a bit of a mix-up with some forbidden magic, and then Leavander ends up getting tied to his arch nemesis Sebastian. Is this gay? Is this gay? If it is, top of the priority list. I bought the next couple of books because I am genuinely so excited to read this series, and that's the Crowns of Nyaxia series by Carissa Broadbent. So the first book is The Serpent and the Wings of Night, and the second book is The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. I love a good duology. There are only 2 books, right? Look, when I heard The Hunger Games meets vampires, I was all in. This year is going to be the year of the Hunger Games because of the new book that's coming out soon. And I kind of just want to eat everything up that's kind of similar to it or anything like that. Although a lot of books do say, oh, this is similar to the Hunger Games, and it turns out to not be. All I know about this is that we follow the daughter, or the adoptive daughter, I think, of the Vampire King. And the only way that she can become something more is if she enters this really dangerous tournament. Logo tournament storyline. So, sounds good. For She Is Wrath by Emily Varga is the next one. Gorgeous. It is stunning. It is stunning. You know what this sounds like? And one of the reasons why I am interested in it, it sounds a little bit like Yona of the Dawn. A little bit, which is a manga series that I do enjoy. But this is asking the question, what if your true love, who is the one who is supposed to protect you, is the one who betrays you? So that is like the main question of this. And it sounds like there's going to be a lot of vengeance in this one, which again is like a recurring theme with Fairy Loot books. But yeah, we follow Dania, who is wrongly imprisoned, and she is now out for vengeance. So, but it's the Yona of the Dawn comparison that I have in my mind that makes me more interested in reading that than any of the other books. Next is The Teller of Small Fortunes by Julie Leong. This is my January Patreon book club book pick. Ow. Oh, I think something just flew into my eye. Ah, that hurt. Or maybe it was just my eyelash, because they're so luscious. They're so luscious and full. So we follow Teo, who is a fortune teller, and she roams the countryside. She gives readings to different people she meets on the way. She ends up encountering a mercenary and a semi-reformed thief, and they are looking for a lost child. And I believe Teo ends up joining them for this adventure to find this lost child. I've heard it's pretty cozy, pretty lovely, and I just freaking love the cover so much. So Fairy Loot do hit every now and then, they do. Next is one I already read, but this is the Fairy Loot edition of it. It's Gwen and Art Are Not in Love by Lex Croucher. This won the YA Book Prize for 2024 that I was a judge for. I did vote for this one to win the book prize, and it did. And so obviously the Fairy Loot edition of it had to have such a great queer young adult book. Gwen and Art aren't in love with each other, they're in love with people of the same sex. So Gwen is in love with this woman and Art is in love with a man. And it leads to some hilarious hijinks. It's both funny and entertaining and just so lovely, and parts of it so romantic, but like a really captivating story. Like, it's very exciting, very good, and I just can't recommend it enough. It won that prize for a reason. Very much looking forward to the next book, and I hope there's a Fairy Loot edition of it. Next is A Language of Dragons by S.F. Williamson. Love the look of this one so much. I'm looking forward to reading this one mainly because it is set in London in 1923 and dragons just roam around. Seems to be maybe like a normal thing. And we follow Vivian, who wants to study the language of dragons. She wants to get an apprenticeship to learn about it, and I think it's just maybe a story or an adventure of her getting to talk to dragons. Speaking of dragons, I got my very first romantasy Fairy Loot box in A Fire in the Sky by Sophie Jordan, and it does look like this one probably deals with dragons. This one follows Tamsin, and she is part of like the royal court, but she is treated like a servant. However, she is then tasked to pretend to be one of the princesses and marry a beast of the borderlands kind of thing. So I think it's the love story between them, almost like a bit of a Beauty and the Beast, or like a Cinderella and the Beast kind of story, maybe. The Starlight Heir by Amelie Howard. I think this might be in the most recent Fairy Loot romantasy, potentially. So we follow Saria, and she is a swordsmith. She works at this forge, but she ends up getting a royal invitation to marry the Crown Prince, or at least I think be in the running to marry the Crown Prince. And Saria like kind of laughs at it. She's like, what in the world? Like, I'm not qualified for this. However, she does go for it because it will offer her adventure, and she will get to explore the capital that her late mother loved. So it sounds like it's going to be one of those stories where we discover more about her family and her family roots, and maybe have some emotions tied to that, as well as having the romantasy aspects, so like the romance. Okay, I do have like some Illumicrate books there, but I don't want to spoil them all for you right now. Last Fairy Loot romantasy book is Heavenly Bodies by Imani Eru. This one follows Alara, and there is this prophecy tied to her that she will fall for a star, and yet it will kill them both. What do you mean? What do you mean? So this star of wrath comes down and begins to hunt her. That actually sounds like so exciting. I'm not gonna lie. It sounds really exciting. If you read this, please let me know. I want to go in with good expectations. Okay, the last 4 books are Illumicrate books. The first one, so excited to read, Watermoon by Samantha Soto Yambo. And this is one that's making the rounds on BookTube at the minute because I think some people are reading them for book clubs and things like that. The Illumicrate edition is extremely beautiful. And I'm so glad this came because I was wanting to buy it myself. So I'm glad I held off on that. This one is set in Tokyo. Oh, again, like, I just love that setting. I love Japan so much. And I believe there is like some kind of pawn shop that not everybody can see. We follow Hana, who wakes up on their first day as the owner of the shop to find it ransacked. There is a charming stranger who comes into it, and I believe they go on an adventure to find out what happened to this pawn shop. I don't know, it has a lot of buzz, sounds really good. I'm all in. Until We Shatter by Kate Dillon. This was another Illumicrate book. We follow Kemi, and the church will kill her because she has magic. Kemi's mother falls ill, and I think Kemi has to do loads of different things, different jobs in order to try and save her. Sounds okay. The Last Hour Between Worlds by Melissa Caruso. Oh, it's sapphic. It is sapphic. It says a star investigator and her rival journey through layers of reality to save the world as they know it in this whip-smart adventure fantasy packed full of reality-bending magic, sapphic romance, and tantalizing mystery. Oh, you know what, Illumicrate? They were on the firing line for a little bit, but now, after like Watermoon and now this one, I'm like, actually. And then finally, I have Hamajang Look by Mikana Yamato. We follow Edie, and they have just served 8 years in prison. Now, the reason she was in prison in the first place was because someone called Angel had sold her out. When Edie's up for parole, the first person she meets when she gets out is Angel, and Angel has a proposition for her. Again, like, that does actually sound like really, really good as well. So I do think Illumicrate have some really good picks. I'm definitely a lot more interested in those than I was some of the Fairy Loop picks. But yeah, those were all my books from November, December, and January. It will definitely calm down over the next few months now that I'm kind of down a few BookBox subscriptions and I'm just not really buying that much anyway. So I don't know when the next book haul will be. Probably my birthday in May, maybe. We'll see. But thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to leave this video a like if you enjoyed and subscribe if you haven't already. Leave all the comments down below. Let me know what you thought of the video. Let me know if you've read any of the books that I mentioned in this book haul. Is there anything that you genuinely love that you cannot wait for me to read? Then please let me know down below. I'm always open for more recommendations. That makes me more excited to read the books that I already own. That would be awesome. I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons for supporting my channel. If you'd like to join my Patreon, then the link is in the description box. But yeah, I hope I will see you in the next video. Bye.